Once you get your slab back to your table, make sure that you're working on a board. Now it's time to use it to build your project. Now the roller, because it had canvas, leaves a texture on your clay that most likely you should not want or do not want. In order to easily get rid of that, take your water or your slip, and you can use this tool called a rib. Sometimes it looks wooden, sometimes it looks plastic. Always wet your tools before you use them so it glides over the clay and doesn't catch on the clay. And if you just do a little bit of pressure, you can see that I'm not using so much pressure that I'm digging into the clay, but just a little bit of pressure will smooth out that texture. Depending on what you're making, how smooth you need it to be. You might also want to take a sponge, and again, a little bit of water goes a long way. You can also use the sponge to smoothen out your clay. Now, when you're building, if you need both sides of it to be showing, you'll want to do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so slabs are really great because they can you can build walls with them. So for example, to do that I used my needle tool. And from here I could take this clay and maybe I wanted to make it look like curved. Maybe I wanted to make a cup or a building of some kind. I now have a cylinder. Maybe I want to make the walls of a house. So maybe I would cut this into sections, and I can begin to build something. Now again, this could be now 2 walls of a house. This could be the beginnings of a book. This could be some sort of a structure that goes that way. It's really up to you and your project to see how you might use these. You also sometimes might want to cut out shapes using slabs. So let's say you wanted to make a big heart. You now have a heart that you can use in a variety of ways. You can stick this onto something, you can prop it up. If it is very thick and you wanted to thin it down, you don't want to go too much thinner because it's a nice shape, but just by then using your fingers and shaping the sides or shaping the edges, it can soften how thick that looks, and it makes it give the appearance of being thinner without giving up the structure of the size. The slab roller will roll it out at about 1/2 inch, and that's a really nice size for clay. Too much thinner and you can get cracks, or it can crumble. Too much thicker and it doesn't dry evenly. So you can then attach this to something or turn this into something. Maybe this is, I made a heart, but maybe it's actually wings, and you can attach your wings on something. So that's just one technique, and that's called slabs. Whenever you want to attach 2 pieces of clay, you can't just take this piece of clay and put it on there and push and hope for the best. When both pieces are still wet, they will cling to each other. So you might be like, oh, that's attached. Look, it's not falling off. However, as soon as the moisture that's in the clay evaporates off, there's going to be nothing left to cause that to cling together, and the 2 pieces are going to fall right apart. So you need to, whenever you're attaching 2 pieces of clay, use a process called score, slip, secure, and smooth. So scoring, we're going to use this little rake tool, and you're just going to rake both edges that you're going to be attaching. That creates lots of little surfaces for the clay to attach to each other. Slip is this, we have little cups like this. It's a little bit of clay mixed with water. And this is gonna act as your glue. I like to use a brush. You can use your fingers, but I think a brush is a little bit easier and neater. So that's slip. Score, slip. And you place the clay together where you want it to be. The next step is secure. Securing means you have this line, this seam, and that's like a weak spot. You don't want that to stay. So taking one of these rounded plastic tools, I always like to wet my tools, it glides over the clay a little bit better. You secure by pushing the edges together of those two pieces of clay so that you don't see the seam anymore. And the final step is smooth, because you secured it, but you didn't smooth it out. It looks kind of messy. So this, you can use a little bit of water on your finger and a little bit of pressure to smooth it out. Sometimes you can use this tool as well to smooth it out. Okay, so look how nicely joined those two pieces look. Now you also have to secure the inside edge. Now this one might be kind of hard to secure in, and maybe I don't want to mess up the shape by pushing the clay together. So sometimes you can use a tiny coil. A coil is like a rope of clay. So I'm going to use a very small coil to help me secure. Okay, I'm going to wet this coil. I'm going to place it in my seam in the edge. And using this tool, I'm going to go into the middle of the coil, push in one direction, and middle of the coil, push in the other direction. I'm going to go back and forth like that. When I've reached the end, I can get rid of the extra. Now that's nice and secured, but again, it doesn't look that good, so now we have to smooth it out. My finger doesn't fit that well here, so I'm going to use this tool. I'm going to smooth it out, smooth out the edges. If I want that edge to still look like a corner, just carefully use your tool to recreate the look of that corner. Now those two pieces of clay are really joined. I would also do the same thing on the top and bottom. So on all the sides that you attach, you score, slip, secure, and smooth. Now that would be the same thing if I was attaching something smaller. You also have to score, slip, and secure something like that. Let's say I want to add details of something. Again, I can't just push it on there. Score, slip. Now when you secure something that's small, it's a little bit more subtle, but you can just really gently push the edges together to secure all the way around. And you're gonna get rid of that edge. See at this side, you see that raw edge, that seam in between it, whereas this side it looks smoothed together a bit. And if you really can't fit your tool in there, just like we did before, teeny tiny little coil this time can also be used. You just sort of push it in to an area you can't reach, and that will help you to secure a really tiny edge. And then if you need to, go back and smooth it a little bit more.